Welcome to the 4 Pillars of Men's Health, a podcast of resources for restoring vigor and vitality, bringing you top influencers in the men's health arena, case studies of men who have succeeded and how they did it, and cutting-edge teaching on men's health issues from America's leading men's health guru, Dave Skattum. Get ready to take steps towards good health. Here's your host, Dave Skattum.
Hey, welcome to the 4 Pillars of Men's Health. I'm so glad that you joined us. And I just, every time I do one of these interviews, I get so excited because each one of us has this unique journey to good health, to better health. Not, all of us have struggles in those areas, but it's so encouraging to me to hear other people's stories about steps that they've taken, missteps that they've taken, and just hearing stories about how we're journeying to good health. And I'm particularly excited to have a guy that I've known for years on my show from a long distance, but his name is Sonny Faronbi. Welcome, Sonny.
Oh, thank you, Dave.
So Sonny, I met Sonny in Toastmasters that we both were involved with, and I met him, and I always kind of admired him from a distance. He's this great coach and a public speaker. He grew up in Nigeria. He actually came to the United States when he was in his 30s, and he's a graduate or a member of the Project Managers Institute, and he coaches people and engineers, project managers on the whole idea of leadership, developing leadership, and project management. Sonny's been married to his wife, Julian, for 27 years. Way to go, Sonny. They have 3 sons and a daughter. And I'm really looking forward to his unique perspective and his journey to good health. So, Sonny, the way I start these things off is I always like to just find out exactly what is going on in your life these days. And I just wonder, what is on Sonny's front burner at this time of your life? What's getting you up in the morning?
Well, thank you, Dave. And once again, I want to say thank you for inviting me to this forum. Well, these days, everybody, I think, is dealing with COVID-19, right? Yeah. We are all dealing with this. The effects of coronavirus. We don't even know what the long-term effects of this thing is going to be. But hopefully, I'm praying and hoping that many of us will come out stronger, much more stronger, in the from the after effects of it. But what's going on with me lately? Because of what I do as a coach and as a speaker, I spend a lot of my days really writing and preparing speeches and presentations. I also write. I'm working on my. I just finished finishing touches on my first book. So that also has taken a lot of my time over the last few months, just putting the finishing touches on that, on the professional side. On the personal side, I love to spend time with my family. My children are grown now. My youngest, who is my daughter, is about to head off to college for her second year. She's going to be a sophomore in college. Her 3 older brothers are either about to graduate from college or already finished college, and they are living and working on their own. So we have, my wife and I are virtually empty nesters at this time. So we try to spend time together. When she's not working and I'm not working, we spend time together, doing stuff that we can do, within the limits of what coronavirus allows us to do at this time.
Yeah, great. That sounds exciting. Our families are so important. The older I get, the more important I see that as being. So way to go there. Hey, so I'm kind of like this amateur history kind of a buff guy, and when I think of men's health, my mind kind of wanders back to the Greek and Roman era, and I have this vision of these great sculpturists, and I see this guy getting this big chunk of marble and starting with his hammer and chisel. He chisels out this kind of a picture, his view of what a perfect man is. So, I see this perfectly chiseled guy up on this pillar. So if Sonny could put the perfect guy up on one of those pedestals, what would that guy look like? What would he be? What would he be like? What's that look like to you? That perfect person that's in perfect health.
Yeah, it's very interesting, Dave, that you mentioned this sculpted figure. I happened to be in Europe with my daughter last year, summer of last year, and we went to Vatican City. We saw all these sculptures. We saw all these sculptures everywhere, and they were magnificent, most of them.
Yeah.
And you see many of them, like you said, having this perfectly sculpted body. You think, I wish I look like that. But Dave, to be honest with you, from my perspective, and I have a feeling you probably agree with it also, from my perspective, that is just one dimension. What we look like, that's just one dimension of being healthy. From my perspective, I think human beings, from the way I see it, we are composed of three parts.
Mm-hmm.
The mind, the soul, and the soul, the body, and the spirit. And I think those three need to be healthy. So when you are talking about a sculpture, you are just looking at the body part of it. But if the soul or the mind and the spirit are not healthy, I think the person is still not healthy. So for me, yes, we can see somebody sculpted. We can see somebody who seems physically in shape, who looks good from outside. But are they also looking good on the inside? Are they healthy on the inside? And I think for me, a picture of health is making sure all three parts of the human being is healthy: spirit, soul, and body.
Yeah, that is really good. That's kind of like a softball question, so I'm glad you elaborate on that. So how when you look at that, the mind, the spirit, the body, or the soul, how do you know, like if you compare an unhealthy person with a healthy person, what do you think is important in those areas?
Well, I believe personally, it depends. You can talk to some people, and some people will tell you, at least from the three parts of the human being I just talked about, some will tell you one part is more important than the other. Personally, for me, I think they are all three equally important, because if one of them is out of shape, if one of them is not healthy, it probably affects the other ones. It affects the other ones also. So for me, I would say that all three need to be in perfect harmony. They need to be healthy, and we need to pay attention to each one of them. Unfortunately, it looks like most people, I go to the gym, and most people you see at the gym who have this, like you mentioned, perfectly sculpted body and things like that. In other areas where, I've seen them behave in ways that tells me either their mind, the soul, or the spirit is not as healthy as their body is, that they're paying attention. They're paying a lot of attention to the body and making sure it's okay, but they are not paying attention to the other one. So I think paying attention to all three is very, very important.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I want to go a little bit deeper into this whole thing. You said all three areas need to be, like, perfect health equals all three of these areas being in perfect harmony. So elaborate on that a little bit more. How do these three, the mind, the body, and the soul, I got kind of confused there, but the three areas, how do those three areas get in perfect harmony? How do you proactively make that happen in your life?
Oh, thank you. Well, like you say, I think the key is the one word you just said. How do you proactively? It's being proactive. It's being intentional. We have to be intentional. It just doesn't happen by accident. And that's why many of us miss it. Because if we are not proactive, if we are not intentional about making sure all those three parts of the human being is healthy, we're going to be missing one or the other. So for me, personally, it's easy. The one that we talked about, the body, which is the one most of us see, the body, which for most people, the body has to do with both nutrition and being active. So exercising and eating nutritional or good quality food, that's the one that helps the body. And some people do that very well. But on the soul side, or the mind side, I think that has to do with our thoughts. It has to do with what you and I think about. And in fact, to be honest with you, our thoughts drive a lot of things that we do. And I'm sure you probably know that already. When I speak and when I do seminars on emotional intelligence, we spend the first couple of hours talking about the role of our thinking process, and taking control of our thoughts. Because these days, it looks like, to me, by the way, it looks like many people do not really pay attention to what they are thinking about. We don't think about what we think about. We don't pay attention to what we are paying attention to. And because of that, we just allow any kind of thought that comes into our mind to just invade our minds, and we run with it. And we don't know what kind of effect or the negative effects those have on us. Because our thoughts that's where emotions come from there, and our behaviors come from our thoughts. Our acts come from the things we've been thinking about. So that's, to me, paying attention to our thoughts helps with the mind part of it. Paying attention to nutrition, exercising, that helps with the body. And then on the spiritual side, and it depends on how you are connecting to the higher power. I will confess to you, I'm a Christian. I believe in God. So for me, the spiritual part of me is trusting God for each day and asking for wisdom for all I need to do on a daily basis.
Cool. That's really good. So that's so for the body, exercise and nutrition. For the soul and mind, it's monitoring your thoughts, and for the spiritual side is getting plugged into your higher power, whichever. But for you, it's trusting for daily guidance and wisdom. That sounds pretty healthy, Sonny. So that's great. So what if you look at your life, and just be aware, I'm going to ask you what makes you unhealthy, but for now, what do you think it is in your life, and maybe you've already touched on this, but if you can elaborate on it a little bit, what makes you a healthy guy, personally?
Did you say what makes me a healthy person?
Yeah, for you personally. Yeah. But what makes Sonny healthy?
Oh, for me. Yeah. Oh, thank you. For me personally, it's really paying attention to those three areas that I just mentioned. But once again, paying attention to them intentionally. Like I said, being intentional and being proactive, not just allowing it. So for me, on the spiritual side, so it's not just, I go to church every Sunday, just because that's what I do. It's making sure on a daily basis, and I tap onto that higher power, and I'm tapping onto it, and I'm asking for guidance, I'm asking for wisdom for each day. On the soul side, on the mind side, that is, taking control of my thinking. What am I thinking about? So that's some of the things I focus on. I'll be honest with you. Yeah. I have on my calendar, and I've done this for years, and I have on my calendar the first thing that I do every morning, after my daily devotional, is time to think. I call it time to ponder. What I put on my calendar, because I want to reorient my thinking. I want to make sure I take control of my thinking. And I teach this same principle I teach the same principle in my emotional intelligence seminars. I call it conscious directional thinking. So I can take control of my thinking and not just allow any thoughts that come in to have their way. And because I know that can dictate my thoughts, and my thoughts rather will dictate my actions and my words. And so that's the mind side, the soul side. So on the physical side, talking about nutrition and exercising, I've also taken control of that. To be honest with you, that's the part, unfortunately for me, that I have not paid attention to until very recently, until about a year ago. I haven't. You know, I've done very well most of the time on the spiritual side, on the soul or the mind side, but because on the bodily side, I don't want to say I've been naturally healthy. I don't think there's anything that translates to that. What I mean is that I've not had many of the physical, physiological problems that some people have, and because of that, I've not paid attention to my body. I was my daughter was asking me questions about the program we do in Nigeria after college. And we were going through my pictures during that time. And she looked at me and said, "Dad, you are so skinny. You are very skinny." And I've always been a skinny person. So it never bothered me. In fact, I remember when I was in high school, I used to eat a lot. I would eat huge plates of food in one sitting. Yeah. I remember my aunts and uncles, even my mom would say, the refrain I constantly hear from them is, "Don't worry, let him eat as much as he can eat. It doesn't show in his body anyway." That's what it is. So because of that, because I'm naturally built like that, over the years, I've not paid attention to the exercise and the physical fitness, exercising part of staying healthy. But over the last year, actually over the last several years, I've been much more cognizant of that because I've been packing on the pounds gradually. And eventually, about a year ago, I realized that I really needed to do something. Like you said, Dave, I needed to be proactive. I needed to be more intentional. So I took control about a year ago, and I said I needed to start paying more attention to what I eat and have a plan to exercise, to be more consciously active and exercise more. So for me, that's the area. That's how I've been handling those three.
Yeah. So just to kind of dig a little deeper there too, when you made that decision to get more, and let's just talk about the exercise part of this health puzzle for you. When you saw yourself packing on some pounds and maybe losing some strength or whatever you saw, what and you decided, I'm gonna make this change. I'm gonna jump on board with an exercise program. What did you see that really made the turning point for you to really get on board with that? What pushed you into that? What kind of thing? Was there a certain thing that happened, or what exactly happened like a year ago that made you jump into that more?
That's a great question. But before I started about a year ago, let me go back several years. When I first got here to the United States 22 years ago, I weighed 177 pounds, and I'm 6'2". I'm 6 feet 2 inches tall. So 177 pounds. I remember that. I remember that because when I first got here and I got my driver's license, they asked me my weight. I didn't know what my weight is because that was not something we were focused on where I was coming from. So they actually had to weigh me. So I was weighed and was 177 pounds, and that was what was listed on my driver's license. So 177 pounds 22 years ago. No. By middle of last year, I've grown up to around 225.
Yeah.
So I've added, close to 50 pounds, really. close to 50 pounds in about just over 20 years. For many people, in fact, to be honest with you, Dave, I was rationalizing that for a while. I was thinking, because, I'm an engineer, I thought, 50 pounds over 20 years, no, that's only about 2.5 pounds a year. That's not a big deal. Put on 2.5 pounds a year. So later I saw that, that's I can look at it that way. But much more importantly, the focus on paying more attention to this started, I would say, more about 5 years ago. Like I told you, I'm a pretty, by God's grace, I'm a pretty healthy person. I don't have any medical problems at all. So the only time I see my doctor is during my annual physical. So I see him once a year, and that's it. So about maybe 5-6 years ago, my doctor told me and said, Sonny, you need to start becoming more active, exercising, watch some of the things you eat. And he said it's because I see your bad cholesterol creeping up. He said, I've seen a trend. Your bad cholesterol is creeping up. He said it's still okay, it's still manageable, but there's a trend over the last few years, it's creeping up. So in order to address that, you need to be more active. I said, okay, I would, but I didn't. Actually, I had a lot of excuses. I was traveling a lot, from airport to hotels and things like that. I didn't have the time. I had all kinds of excuses. But then about 2 years ago, I saw him during the physical. He said, okay, now your LDL, the bad cholesterol, is now above the range that is considered healthy. It's not far above it yet, but it's above it. So he said, since you have not been active, I've been asking you to watch what you eat and be more active. Since you've not been doing that, I'm going to have to put you on cholesterol medication to reduce that. So for me, that was one thing that I personally, and I'm not saying anything is wrong with that, but personally it's not something I want for myself. I don't want a situation where I have to take a medication, a tablet every day. Now, we are talking about vitamins, supplements. That's okay. I take those. I take vitamin Ds. I take, when I turned, 40 or something like that, he asked me to start taking baby aspirin every day. But I know those are things that they are not things to correct something. They are kind of preventive. But I did not like the idea of now having to take medication that will help me solve a problem, a physical healthy problem. So I did not like the idea of having to take cholesterol medication every day. So he prescribed for me 2 years ago. And I went to the pharmacy. I took the first prescription, the first 30 tablets for the first 30 days because I have to take one every day. And I didn't do it. I had it. I didn't take it. Once again, I was kind of resistant to it. I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. And this was, actually, I forgot, this was last year. So this was around May of last year, not 2 years ago. Around May of last year that he prescribed the medication for me. So I didn't do it for about, I would say, 3-4 months. I didn't do it. I had the medication. I just didn't do it. Then, but it kept on worrying me that, okay, I needed to do something about this. Then I remembered, I just cast my mind back to a few years ago. I remember that he has constantly told me to be more active, to watch what I eat and to exercise in order to arrest the situation. He did that for a few years, but because I didn't do it, he had to put me on the medication. So I decided, you know what, since I really don't want to take this medication, maybe I need to get to what my doctor has been telling me to do for years, and I didn't. So, and he's a friend. My doctor is also a personal friend. So in one of social outings, I talked to him. I said, and this was about 4 months after he gave me the cholesterol medication. So I confessed to him. I said, to be honest with you, that cholesterol medication, I have not been taking it. But I've decided what I'm going to do. But I want to run it by you to make sure it's okay. I realized that you've been asking me to be more active, to watch what I eat for years. I didn't do it, so you gave me this medication. but I don't want to take it.
Yeah.
So is it okay? Do you think it will help me if I take more active control and become more active by exercising and watch what I eat? And let's see how that works by the time I see you next time for my next physical. And he said, yeah. I said, that's okay. So that was why just about a year ago, September of last year, first week of September of last year, I started. So I signed up for the gym. I signed up for a gym. I met with one of the trainers. He had about 2-hour discussion with me. What are your goals? And I told him what my goals are. And then he put together a plan for me. And I have been following that plan since. Now, when coronavirus hit between March and I think June or so, when all the gyms were closed down and things like that, I couldn't do that. So I took more active, just walking around my neighborhood. I made sure I walked longer. I had something that counted the steps. I walk around. I make sure I got at least 10,000 steps each day. And when the gyms opened back in June or July, I started going back to the gym, and I've continued to do that. So anyway, that's a long way to explain your question. That for me, my turning point was really because my doctor gave me medication that I didn't want to take, and I thought, what, I better do what he's been telling me or trying to tell me to do that I didn't do.
Yeah. It seems like as you're talking there, and I'm seeing this in my own life. About you mentioned earlier in our interview that perfect harmony happens when we're intentional and when we're proactive. And I can see you're speaking right to that at a specific area of your life where you had to get more intentional and you had to be proactive or take these drugs that you didn't like. So that's a great illustration of your earlier point. So thanks for mentioning that. Hey, so if you look over your sphere of influence, the people that you see in your life and the things that are going on in people's lives in our society, what do you think are some of the circumstances or things that are leading to people being unhealthy? You can, since you're Nigerian, maybe you can comment on Nigeria, but in America, the place where you live, the people that you know, what do you think are some of the main things that are happening, either decisions we're making or the things we're listening to on TV or whatever? What's making us unhealthy? And reflect on it. I think you raised some good points about the spirit, the body, and the soul and mind. In some of those areas, what do you think is making us unhealthy?
I think it may be in there may be different facets of the different dimensions of these, and it could be different for different people. I've come to know some people who, because of stress or depression, when people are depressed or they are anxious about something, some of us turn to food for comfort. We are not hungry, and then we turn to comfort food. And usually those comfort food are not things that are healthy for us most of the time. Most of the time they are just junk food. One of the things that has helped me when it comes to the area, I've eaten my share of junk food, but there are some food, maybe because of where I grew up in, where I come from, there are some food that I naturally do not like, some American food that I don't like, for example. For example, I don't like hot dogs. I do not eat. I've never eaten a hot dog.
Good for you.
Not because anything is wrong with it. I just don't like the way it looks. For me, food has to look, it has to have a certain look, kind of. And for whatever reason, the same way, we didn't have hot dogs in Nigeria, at least when I was growing up. We had sausages, just like the English sausages. The same thing, because sausages look like that, I never ate sausages in Nigeria. I didn't like those. And so when I came here, I saw hot dogs, they have the same kind of shape. I never liked them. So that's why I never eat. I don't eat hot dogs. The same thing with hamburgers. Eat hamburgers, and the main reason for hamburger is because the meat patties. I always tell people I want my meat to look like meat. I don't want to eat meat that does not look like meat. What do I mean by that? What do I mean? I mean, most hamburgers even if it's pure beef or pure turkey or something, it's been mashed. It's been kind of, it's been crunched into something. For me, I want to strands of the steak. I wanted the strands of the chicken that I'm eating. So to be able to make sure. So for me, the reason, what I'm saying is this: the reason I never ate some of those what we may call junk food is not because I saw them as unhealthy. It's just because I didn't like the way they look. So that was one of the things that I think has helped me for a while not to become look physically unhealthy for a long time. But going back to your question, though, I think when people are stressed, when people are anxious about something, especially what we have been going through with coronavirus now, there's a lot of depression going around. There's a lot of things. People are losing hope, and some of us turn to comfort food. We just turn to things and we eat, and that can be part of it. Another thing that can cause people to be unhealthy, it may just be lack of information, not realizing what some of those food can do to them, not realizing it, and not being aware of the information. I'm sure there are some of us who are aware of the information. I can tell you, for years I've been aware of good information about nutrition and things like that, but I didn't take them serious because some of those things also I didn't like to eat them. For example, for a long time I didn't like broccoli. I did not like broccoli. If you ask my children, they will tell you I call them tiny trees. They look like tiny trees. And I said,
yeah, they do.
Eat tiny trees. I want something. I didn't like. I didn't like to eat salad. I love broccoli now. I eat salad now. I thought it's kind of a mindset shift, and that's where the thought and the mind comes into play, because I think the shift that many of us need to make, it needs to start in our mind, in our thinking. Because if I'm thinking, no, I don't like this food, I'm not going to eat this food, that's going to perpetuate itself. But if I change my thinking, I said, okay, this is good for me. I may not like it. Now this is good, but this is good for me. This is good for me. I can choose to like it. I will give you another example. Every time when I go to the gym, even now, I go to the gym only 3 days a week. 3 days a week, I go to the gym. I spend just over an hour. Anytime I'm going, so the part of my routine is the cardio part where I'm running on the treadmill. I run on the treadmill. That's my least favorite part of my work activity. Running part of it, But here's the thing: I've been able to build a stamina to be able to run I'm supposed to run for about 20 minutes before I move on to other things. But I've been able to build up the stamina to run straight for about 25 minutes now. So I'll do 25 minutes.
Wow.
But still, anytime I'm going, when I'm driving to the gym, the thought pops in my head and say, I really don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. But quickly, I realize the power of my mind, the power of my thinking, and I quickly take that thought captive and I turn it around. And I say, you know what? I have to speak positive things to myself. I have to tell myself, Sonny, you like this. You enjoy this. You like the running. You like the running, and it's not like you are saying you don't like it. It's not like you can do it. You've done it. You've done it many times. You've done it many times, and you are not tired. You're not tired. And I will tell you, when I'm on the treadmill and I'm running, when I get to the 5-minute mark, especially between 5 to 10 minutes mark, I'm feeling like, oh my God, I don't think I can get to 25 minutes today. I think I want to. Now I have to quickly, once again, take control of that thought and say, you are not stopping, you are not quitting here, because you have done this 25 minutes before many times. You know you can do it, and you are not tired. I'm not physically tired like I cannot go on. I'm just tired by tiredness I mean it's just the monotony of just moving my legs back and forth. The monotony of it is what I'm talking about. It's not like I'm physically tired that I cannot go on anymore. So I have to remind myself of that. So what I'm trying to say is that our minds, our thoughts, is very, very crucial. We have to reorient our thoughts. We have to change our mind. And I think for most people, that is where the battle is in order to go from being unhealthy to being healthy. We have to make that change, the shift in our thoughts, in our mind, in what we do, in what we eat, in how we do things.
Cool. Yeah, it goes back to your earlier point about you mentioned conscious directional thinking. And now you've started eating trees, and now you can run 25 minutes on the treadmill. Way to go, Sonny.
In those short trees now,
That's right. Hey, so I'm second to the last question. I'm putting a crown on your head, giving you a magic wand, and now you are king of the world. And what one or two things would you do when you look out across our society and our world? What one or two things would you do that you think would be the most impactful for people to take steps or to regain their health or continue on in a healthy direction? What would you do?
That's a good question. Well, quickly off the top of my head, two things that I would do if I can wave a magic wand, right? I have a magic wand. To be able to.
That's right.
To do something. First of all, I'll wave the magic wand and allow people to see into their future. To let them see where they will be maybe 15, 20 years from now and see themselves. See if they like themselves, what they see in 15, 20 years. So that's the first one I will use to see where they are so that they can actually accurately assess themselves and say, in 15, 20 years, who I am, either physically, spiritually, and also in my mind, in my soul. This is where I am. And let them, and I can assure you, Dave, most of us, actually many people are unhealthy. If you continue on the trajectory, if you go down the line 15, 20 years, if you can see beyond that, most of us will not like what we see. So I will quickly wave my magic wand to let people see themselves in the future. So that's one. So the next thing I would do, second thing I would do once they have seen themselves is also to wave the magic wand for them to change their thinking. To change their thinking right now so that they can begin to make decisions. They can begin to become proactive, become intentional. Change their thinking on what they need to do right now so that what they have seen in the future in 15 to 20 years, so that becomes a different future, a different picture, that is.
Wow. That would be huge. Good. That sounds really good. Cool. Hey, okay, so we're gonna wrap it up this way, Sonny. I'm gonna do a forward lateral to you in our football game here, and I'm gonna have you run this in for a touchdown. So how I want you to wrap this up is I want you to tell us what you're working on. I know that you're right in the middle of writing a new book. Maybe you could say a little bit about what that's going to be about, how people can get in touch with you, and then any closing thoughts or ideas that you have we may have missed out or that you want to reiterate on about taking steps towards good health. So there's a football running in.
All right, thank you. Well, I've been working on the book for about 6 years. It's a long time, 6 years, and that's because I've not been paying a lot of attention to it. But the idea came to me about 6 years ago. Actually, the idea to write a book came to me about 8 years ago. I started working on that book, and then 6 years ago, I met an author and a speaker, and I was talking to him about that book. And from that discussion, it changed my thinking a little bit. So I stopped that first book I was working on, and I began to work on this one about 6 years ago. So that book is, the manuscript is about done right now, and I believe it will be published sometimes in 2021. That book is actually on humility. It's on the power of humility and how we all need to learn to be humble and to descend in order to be able to soar in the future. It's the power of humility. There's a lot of stories about from my personal experiences of other people. I conducted a brief study. I spoke to a lot of people to get the idea of humility and how they think humility can impact people. And I found out that it's humility is a powerful, powerful tool that is really underestimated today. So that's what I've been working. That's what I've been working on. About contact information, you can reach me through my website. My website is sonnyspeaks.com. Sonny, SUNNY speaks.com. That's my website. You can reach me through that.
Okay. And then any last thoughts on men's health or the things we've been talking about?
Oh yeah. Well, final comment is just that this is very important. It is very important. I know we are talking about men's health, but human beings in general, both men and women, we need this. But let's focus on men. That's what we are talking about. Because the reason I say let's focus on men is that it seems women, for whatever reason, get this much more easier than we guys do. I don't know.
So true.
It seems to me, just from, I didn't do any study, by the way, just from going to the gym, the amount of men and women that I see, you see more women than men, at least in my gym and most gyms that I've been to. So it's very, very important. This is critical. This is important for us. Because if we don't take control of our health, whether it's spirit, soul, and body, it affects everything about us. We can easily become demotivated in what we do. We can really become depressed. And I've had some studies that shows that exercise, and even the physical exercise, helps with stress. It helps us diffuse stress. So there's so much that our success as men, success in life, is dependent on being healthy.
You've been listening to The 4 Pillars of Men's Health with Dave Skattum. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit the4pillarsofmenshealth.com.